when everything that we talk about is going to be too much work for you. Every time that we bring something up where, okay, if you could give us access to your portal, we're going to need it for about 15, 20 people. I'll have to see if we can do that many because that's going to be way too much work for us. Anything like that, I'm like, this is what
your core
do.
competency.
This is you're at work.
Yeah.
So where if it's not my job type of attitude, or it's too much work, it doesn't flow well.
This is part 2 of a 2-part episode about vendor struggles. So if you did not hear the first part, you have to go back, listen to part 1. This is part 2. We have Emma Fox with us here today. We're very lucky to have her expertise alongside Steph Mohr and Bruce Hansen. So we'll jump right back into it. When we say vibes, it's such a loose term, but I think that there are certain things that contribute to good or bad vibes. So I want each of us to share either a good or bad vibe check metric that you have when you're getting ready to work with a new vendor. And I can start. So my vibe check is typically when I meet someone in the industry that I have not met before, I can typically figure out their level of actual technical knowledge pretty quickly, and a lack of technical knowledge, bad vibes. If somebody does not understand...
That's why you love Bruce Thompson from Lucent.
It is.
He's a
that
sales
man knows
guy
everything,
hidden in an IT nerd's body.
Yes, yeah. Bruce knows everything.
Or the other way, IT nerd hidden in a sales guy's body.
And he just knows everything about self-funding. I mean, he knows more than just about anybody I've met in the industry. Good vibes. That's why I love Bruce Thompson.
Yeah.
Is he gives me good vibes because he knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
I like nerds. I like people that know what they're talking about. That's a good vibe check for me personally. That's my vibe check. Mm-hmm.
I don't have a good vibe check. Like, I'm not on the front end of many of these relationships. The relationships typically come to us through the sales process.
Well, that's terrifying.
And one of our sales reps, has an opportunity here and they want us to work on it. Where the rubber hits the road for me is when something goes wrong. So this isn't something you can necessarily vet. We all know in self-funding and unbundled world, things are going to go wrong. Nothing ever goes perfectly, especially on the RBP side.
Especially on the first swipe, yeah.
The vibe check is when something bad happens and how people step up in terms of accountability, problem solving, collaboration versus tuck tail and run.
Or just avoid.
Or just avoid.
Disappear.
There is a TPA who, I could go down a list of, submitting multiple stop loss claims for the same claim. The carrier comes back and say, hey, this happened. Client, you need to pay us this money back, reimburse us this money back. And the client's like, TPA, you submitted for it twice. And the TPA is like, well, we'll have to review.
Who are you?
This. Yeah. And,
Who dis? New number.
Processing duplicate claims, the advisor does a reconciliation and they dig in and do an audit and they find $75,000 worth of errors. They've already terminated the TPA because they were bad, but they do this after the fact. They go back to them and they find all these blatant errors. TPA is like, we're going to have to review this. Crickets for months, just run and hide. And it's like, and you're still out there actively promoting yourself with a very positive vibe. And if I saw the president at a conference, I'd be like, hey, you want me to say his name, don't you?
I do. I'm desperately hoping you'll finish that sentence.
No,
Wow.
I've been there. I've been to their office in Oklahoma. And they're good people. Again, really good people. But that was one where we walked in the office and it was like a room this size. And we're looking around. We're like, so...
Who's doing the TPA in here?
Yeah. And so it was like, that was a red flag. But they were so into it and they were so... I believe truly mission oriented. I believe they really wanted to be a good TPA. I really believe they wanted to impact the cost containment world. And it just, again, you have vibe and you have substance, and
there wasn't any substance.
It lacked. So mine's mostly on the back end with how people step up when things go wrong or you make a mistake. It's like, what are you doing then? And what's your vibe then?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I would say that's like the biggest problem in our space is that it's not an if, it's a when.
Yeah.
Issues are going to arise, and how do you address it? The tuck tail, run, hide, new number, who dis response makes me absolutely infuriated. And again, it's because this is people's health care. This is an incredibly
These are real
personal
people,
thing.
Yes.
What's going to happen when you get sick? Again, not if, when you get sick and you need help, how do you hope people respond to that?
Well, that was what was most infuriating to me with the whole Flume thing, because they were using back office, and after about a year of this whole marketing concoction of growing this idea, and the TPA behind Flume, so they weren't actually a TPA. There was kind of a in-between one, was just marketing, and then it went to another level of processing. Is after a year, they're like, all right, we're all grown up now. So they had told this other TPA, we're going to use you for, X amount. They bailed on them, went to all the clients and said, we're now the TPA. And it's like, you realize these are people back here that need their medical claims processed and paid. Yeah. And you're just like, I think we're ready. It's like,
dude.
Yeah, it was like, to me, that was the most infuriating part about like the lack of recognition of impacting people's lives with your choices and your desires to make money, basically.
Yeah. And they're not the ones taking the phone calls from the members. They're seeing members as a number, not as a person with a son that has a condition that may not be able to be seen anymore because claims aren't getting paid. So again, if you're not stepping up to the challenge, if you're not taking that accountability, that's definitely number one for me. But also when we meet a new partner, and this is a little superficial, I think, but turn your camera on. If we're meeting virtually, let us see you. If you all look miserable on camera or you're not paying attention to what's going on, that's a vibe check for me, right? Also, when everything that we talk about is going to be too much work for you. Every time that we bring something up where, okay, if you could give us access to your portal, we're going to need it for about 15, 20 people. I'll have to see if we can do that many because that's going to be way too much work for us. Anything like that, I'm like, this is what your
core
do.
competency.
This is you're at work.
Yeah.
So that to me also is that vibe check where if it's not my job type of attitude, or it's too much work, it doesn't flow well.
I love that you just brought up the camera thing because when we did our prep call for this episode, I could not have my camera on. But
I'm trying to throw
we all
shade
know
at you.
this. I'm catching the shade.
We were all thinking that.
Full transparency, I had a cavity filled like 3 hours prior, and so half of my mouth was like still numb. And I was like, I can't get on the camera like this. Someone's going to think that I'm like a stroke survivor or something.
Certainly there are reasons why a camera can't be turned on. But if nobody in your organization is doing it, then it's a culture thing, right?
It does.
There's something going on there, maybe?
Yes, that's so true.
Emma, do you
I want to hear Emma's vibe check, good, bad, otherwise.
Each one of you were talking, I was like, oh, I'm going to say that. No, I'm going to say that. And so now I'm like, oh, I have like 12.
I know. I'm like, oh, I have the biggest red flag ever, but I didn't think of it when you asked me.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that.
We'll circle back.
Yeah.
You guys brought up some really good ones. The lack of accountability is a big red flag. Like if you're not just willing to say, hey, I really that up, like let's come to the table and talk about it. If you're not willing to learn and be better next time and really figure it out, that's a big red flag. Another one for me is how people talk about each other in the industry. And so if I see somebody if it's not a buka and they're throwing out just shade very publicly.
I'm a red flag.
You're a walking red flag, Bruce.
I'm also a red flag. And I have to vibe check myself a lot too, because another one for me is like you can make determinations about a person based on what they're most passionate about. And it's hardly ever reflective of who they actually are. Right. So to your point, to my LinkedIn, a lot of people, I mean, I've had people that were like, I'd love to be your friend, but you're kind of scary on LinkedIn. And I'm like, that's just my job. Like, it's just...
is to be a protagonist.
Yeah. And I really like, it's kind of my thing and it's where my passion is. But obviously when I'm at home, I'm not like, kids, listen to what these bukas did today. Like I have like I'm a regular person too. So I think like giving someone enough pause to be like, okay, they kind of sound like an asshole, but are they really? Like I thought you were an asshole. Bro.
I am.
He is an asshole,
I am,
Emma.
yes.
Don't be confused. That is factual.
But I mean, you know, Bruce and I weren't always on the same page.
No.
And I think we both got impressions of each other based on what was available to us, which is just not indicative of a whole person. So I think like the vibe check for me is just pausing long enough to recognize that people are really diverse and there's a lot of layers, and we're just seeing like their work layer.
Yeah.
So I've really worked on that myself, because I think people misunderstand my intentions sometimes.
Well, and like for me, I'm really okay with conflict. I'm really okay
Me
with
too.
confrontation.
Comfortable with it, yeah.
And a lot of times you can find answers in that, both about the people you're having that interaction with, or
Yep.
maybe the solution behind that, of which you're having that confrontation. So yeah, I would agree. There's some middle ground in there between the people that are just like everybody's best friend in this business.
Right.
It's like, okay. And the people that are super antagonistic, you know,
Yeah.
there's shout out to Bud Cole.
Okay.
Oh,
Come on.
no.
But Bud, you don't seem happy.
You seem a little miserable.
No, he makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, because I have a lot of the same reactions to him, and I just suppress
Tamp it
them.
down.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, Bud chimed in.
That's what it's like to be a woman, Bruce.
To have somebody speak for you.
But yeah, I think that, to your point, Emma, I love what you said about there being layers to people, and we're always only really going to see someone's work layer, and you might get a little bit of an interpersonal layer in there. But yeah, I'm not at home like explaining to my cats why, you know, the bukas are horrible. Like there's other things in our life, and we just don't see them.
You're trying to get to the competency layer. At the end of the day, and some of that comes from having that interpersonal dialogue and being friends, and then you get exposed to more maybe of what their competency is as well. Like I think Ben is probably highly misunderstood because he is pretty bananas, but he's so like sophisticated when it comes to what he loves. Like when it comes to reference-based pricing and knowing it inside and out, and why you do this and why you do that, and kind of what the foundation of our company is, most people just probably see a different side of that if they've dealt with him like directly. So.
And I think sometimes that intimidates people too, is that highly competent individual, and maybe they're not coming off as warm as somebody would like. We all want everybody to be really nice to us. And
You're always really nice.
Yeah.
well, that's the warmth, right? I have to do that. I got to keep the clients.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think his highly competent brain and just the evil scientist, like you said, is, and he's so tall and like, you're like, whoa, but he's so smart. He's so great.
Do you know what's funny? Steph, how old were you when you started working for us?
23.
23.
You're aging me now.
Because Ben and I get so like fired up easily, and we're not afraid to like express that and have confrontation and conflicts with other people. Steph was like 25 years younger than us, and she's like so much more professional than we.
Yeah.
And it was like, I feel bad about myself now. Like she was able to like take what we were angry and frustrated about with, and then reshape it into more constructive conversations. So maybe that's another vendor thing, having multiple layers of contacts at organizations so you can better work through solutions. And it's not just the figurehead. Like a lot of in this unbundled small vendor space, there's a figurehead, and then it's like, what's behind that? And that's probably one of the things we've done well, is build a really deep layer of experts behind Ben, myself, Amy, Omar, of where people can go deep here, you know, with people that are going to be more professional than we tend to be. Yeah.
I'd like to see brokers getting better at that, actually, because I feel like we're the weak link. The way that we, you know, I'm sure you've had brokers yell at you, right? Like they see a problem, they don't identify it as a human problem, and so they lose their shit and they call and they yell, and it's not putting much humanity into the relationship. And when you don't have that, it's easy to just end up being one of those brokers that no one wants to work with.
There was a really good broker, and we had him on a call with the school district.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going well. They told the school district nothing had changed. we renewed your benefits and nothing has changed.
They didn't follow any of our requirements pretty much of education and how to run Pave the Way and everything that makes the plan successful right from the start. Nothing. They kept us in the background. And
there was a sales and marketing guy that must have been like key to this relationship. And he got on that call. And not only did he not have any clue how reference-based pricing worked, he seemed confused by self-funding. And it was just like the most atrocious call I think I've ever been on.
And I think that's a good example of a TPA who wasn't a partner with us. They got on the side of the broker and almost
you even went out there and
yeah. We did the whole thing. We trained the TPA on how we work. We did the whole member education,
front to back. You explained how everything works. We started to see like our phraseology in their marketing materials because then they became a RBP forward TPA.
Sure.
Because they had all our verbiage and lingo down. They could shove it right into their marketing.
As a sales tactic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys not feel, though, that RBP is like a trigger word for a lot of brokers?
Yeah.
Because what you just said reminded me, I was back at EBMS and I was talking about RBP and I had written this fairly divisive article about the difference in how one repricer handles claims versus another. And it's actually it was the first thing that I wrote that kind of helped me go viral. And of course, it was like the most outrageous piece of writing that I had put out there.
You read it now and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why did I do this?
It's like rereading your Facebook statuses from 2008. You're like,
awkward.
I don't know what that was. But yeah, I had a broker and a lot of them are just mad because they hear me saying you could be doing something different. And because they're not, they get really
defensive.
They get so mad about it. And so I had a broker call me and he actually I thought understood self-funding really, really well. And he's like, this RBP stuff is bullshit. How is it ever going to qualify under the ACA as a? And I was like, what does that have to do with? And it was so apparent that you don't actually know what RBP is.
Yeah.
Because if you think it has anything to do with a metallic tier that's going to qualify under ACA, and it occurred to me that there's a lot of people that just hear I can do something that you can't do, and instead of them trying to figure out how to do it, they get really
they learn
mad.
to sell against it.
Yeah, they sell against it, and it's usually disastrous. So.
We struggle with the terminology of reference-based pricing and RBP. Yep. So we're in a space where it's universally recognized. You say RBP, somebody automatically knows what you do. The problem is there's so many flavors of RBP.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you can get labeled right out of the gate by using RBP.
Yeah.
But yet you need to have them understand at the core what you're doing.
Yeah.
So from a marketing perspective, it is one of our biggest struggles, like how to do the dance around that. And I saw a post from Craig Gottwalls. You said earlier how you love us and you just love us because we do it well and you don't know why, but we do and we can do it. We're one of the few. You said to me one time, you're like, do we pay him?
Oh, yeah. I was like, is this a paid endorsement from
I'm
Craig?
like, no, we don't. We just...
Oh, because of his LinkedIn statuses. Because he was, he was posting all over LinkedIn. He's super...
I thought he was your employee for the longest time.
Did you really?
Yeah, because he posts like just really
Constantly.
RBP. I love
and
it.
I was like, no, he gives 2 Fs and he just like, he's passionate about it and he just loves that. The same reason like that you like this. We actually do what we tell him we're going to do and he gets excited about it. But he had a post recently where he's like, why are we all backing down from saying the word RBP? He's like, ooh, it's RBP. Like, what are we afraid of? Why are we afraid of saying that? It's the mechanism.
Yeah, I think it stems from many, many years of brokers who didn't want to learn how to do it, learning to sell against it. And so our own industry, has figured out it's easier to learn how to sell against it than it is to learn how to do it right or to even learn how to discern between the RBP players in the space because there's lots of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bashing articles out there about RBP. So in my space, when it comes to the member education, member experience, if we put RBP on the first communication that goes out to them, they're going to start Googling it. They're going to start calling us, and they're going to start talking about how they're going to get sued and my collection, all this stuff. It's like, no, this isn't what it's about. This is a small piece of your plan. What you just mentioned is very rare, but in order to have those conversations with them right off the bat, when those emotions are high, it's very difficult.
But it goes back
to, it has to be very tactful. Yeah.
Bad vendors have caused that noise
exactly.
and that narrative and a lot of times truth to exist. So then it's how do you get them comfortable and that you're differentiated? Just like a TPA is probably watching this and saying, that's not us. What you've been describing is not us.
Right.
So it's the same thing in almost every probably aspect of cost containment, self-funding, unbundled. Same with PBMs. PBMs are so sensitive to that's not us. We do it perfectly and we're awesome and we're the best. I just saw a post the other day and the PBM rep was like, we are the best and we do the best. And I was like, oh, that's like quantitative analysis there. Like, thanks.
But as an advisor, it's tiring. Everybody says that. Everybody says they're the best. Everyone tells me that they're pass-through and transparent. And I don't even open my LinkedIn messages anymore because it's just a slew of sales pitches. And I think we get fatigue after a while. So I rely on my advisor friends to tell me what's been working for them. And I know which ones actually do RBP and which ones just say they do and actually don't do RBP. So, it's been a journey, and I'm still finding bad vendors, unfortunately. And I think what a lot of advisors don't do is they don't take it on the chin and take responsibility for it, because it ultimately comes down to me. If I choose a bad vendor and I didn't do what I needed to do to make sure it was a good fit, I get fired, not the vendor.
Yeah.
Or I should, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and Bruce and I were talking about this just the last time I was here. When I'm talking to a broker about doing reference-based pricing for the first time, the number one emotion that they need to feel is safe.
Right.
Like, I'm making a safe decision. I know that this person knows what they're talking about, and I'm going to put my income, my earnings on the line with this person.
Right.
You have to make the broker feel like they're making a safe decision and like they are in, I hate to make an insurance joke, good hands. Because of all the vendors over the years that have come into a broker's office and made a sexy sales pitch, the broker says yes, and then 12 months later, they're like, holy smokes, I just lost this client over this vendor decision that I made.
Well, even in the reference-based pricing space, when if you know it well, there's clear defining lines between the different vendors and how they do it and how well they do it.
I think that's when clients are most sensitive and more aware of the vendors is when they're coming from a similar plan. They're coming from RBP and they're switching over because of the service issues, because of EDI issues, whatever the case may be. They're highly attuned to what's going on. They want to know who their points of contact are. They want to know that we're all working together cohesively, that they're not having these disjointed partnerships running the plan. Otherwise, it's just going to go down the same way. And again, it's going to be RBP's fault, not the vendors that are working the... Yeah,
the best case scenario is when they know what bad is in RBP and they come over, because if they have no frame of reference, they can't... We've had clients terminate and they've had provider acceptance of like 97% and no balance bills. And they're like, this plan just isn't working. It's like,
Do you?
Yeah. Well, I can give a piece of advice to advisors, and actually I'll ask you if you maybe think this is a good idea. One of the things I developed over time for PBM selection specifically was I was able to, through trial and error, identify what were the best practices in the PBMs that I really loved working with that just gave me good results. And so we create a little questionnaire. And so if a new PBM wants to work with us, I send them this questionnaire and I'm like, tell me how much of this do you do? And so they have to check it off. And sometimes they have to say, no, I don't do this. And I'm like, well, you don't do that. I actually don't have one for RBP yet, though. Yeah. RBP vendor selection. And so, but you have to I have to ask you, someone who does it really well, to identify what are all the best practices. And you're probably not going to help me vet other potential RBP vendors.
No, honestly, they're different clients, different brokers. You have to find your right fit.
Yeah.
And we may not be right for everybody. We had a client recently and awesome advisors. And they were changing up the program and adding in like a local network, kind of a regional network, and then they were going to add in a couple more pieces. And then they were also changing to a TPA who wasn't that strong. Mm-hmm. And so we just let them know, like, we're going to have to do something different in terms, and truthfully, we weren't going to get much revenue. They had seen how we operated and how we like led access and doing all these different things, and they loved it. But then they were building in all these other pieces where we weren't going to get revenue to justify doing all that.
They
work.
wanted all the
But they wanted all the
of
services
guiding
they were
members.
used to. And I understand if I'm the broker, I'm going to ask for it too.
Right.
And maybe it's partially our fault that we didn't like fully explain to them on the front end, because they thought that's what was going to happen. And they needed to go a different direction because we weren't going to budge on what we need from a revenue standpoint to make our program good and work really well. And so they just needed to go to like a repricer to tack alongside all that. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But in terms of putting together a checklist, I'm
going to interrupt you on this.
You've probably
for a
done it,
second.
but real quick, let me say, I looked at an RFP question that I had a broker send me to how one of our competitors answered a question about provider outreach. And I'm like, oh my gosh, unless you had like really strong working knowledge, you're like, that's a good answer. They asked them, how many W-2 employees do you have handling pre-service provider outreach? Great question. I mean, really a good question if you're trying to like slog through understanding. The answer was amazing.
Yeah.
Like it was such a good answer, but there was a very clear flaw in it. And it was, we have over 100 claim negotiators making contact. I'm like,
That's not the question.
That's not the question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have a strong service of balance bill negotiation. It had to be AccuNet from doing their work comp side.
But they completely obfuscated the
And it was, I'm like, that's really well done.
Yeah.
Like 99% of people, they're reading that and it sounds like, oh, they have a lot of people doing that. But
Yeah. Well, to go back to what we were talking about with the checklist, like you're talking about your PBM checklist. I actually wrote an industry perspective about this, an article about this several months ago, but I'm of the opinion that we as benefits professionals have trained our buyers to compare things on a spreadsheet, apples to apples, because that's how historically fully insured plans were shopped. And so now when you're looking at something as sophisticated as an unbundled, self-funded, reference-based price vendor, the buyers crave this like apples to apples thing. And that's just really impossible to do on reference-based pricing because like we're not a repricer, right? Like ClaimTalk is an RBP employee advocacy organization.
And I think you've called us repricer like 100 times.
It's a common thing.
Just
It's a common thing. People do it all the time. And I actually often use it as an educational opportunity for brokers because I'll say, look, we do pave the way. We do 10-to-1 provider outreach to inbound phone calls. We pre-negotiate things. We go through single case agreements when we have to. We put in contracts when we need to. We audit the claim line by line, everything over $2,000. We audit line by line with human eyes. And then we reprice it. That's the difference between us and a repricer.
Yeah.
I typically try to use it as an opportunity to educate, but I would discourage a checklist for RBP vendor shopping. My advice to brokers out there that are looking to do reference-based pricing and choose a good vendor is to make sure you understand how 2 or 3 of them work in a very intimate fashion. You understand all the inner workings of it. You've used them before would be ideal. There's a first time for everything, so don't be afraid. Call your ClaimTalk sales representative and get a good education. But once you have a good savvy knowledge of 2 or 3, you'll know which tool is the right tool. And to your point, sometimes a repricer is the right tool.
Right.
If there's a really robust plan around it,
Agreed.
sometimes that's the right thing, and we might be overkill. We're maybe a huge butcher knife for something that you really just need a paring knife for.
For me, the checklist is them getting a meeting with me at all. So usually it's vendors trying to introduce me to their new product. And there's 6 to 8 things that a vendor has to do in order for me to work with them, because I have made a very public statement about what I do and what I don't do. So on every checklist, regardless of who the vendor is, it's what's your revenue model? How do you get paid? And how are you baking in commission? Because I don't want commission. I can't tell you, I've been out there for years saying I don't take commission, and still almost every new vendor that we get integrated with will call me and go, okay, so how much commission do you want? And like, no, I don't.
Fee-based advice.
I don't want any. And they're like, oh, you're serious about that? I'm like, yes.
Because it's a
I'm serious
line.
about
Yeah,
it.
because people, brokers will go out and say that.
So it's important. And I feel like maybe it's just I'm getting older and I've been doing this for too long, but the alignment in values is top of every checklist. So I won't even meet with a vendor at this point unless they have a top 3 or 4 things at least.
But being fee-based, how frustrating is it knowing that the brokers that do take those commissions just lie about it?
Oh, my God. Bruce, don't get me started.
I mean,
they lie about it all the time.
lying.
All the time.
That's all they do. And so we lost a couple cases to a broker that we've worked with in the past and had a really good relationship. He has been here, and he said by far better than the experience he was getting with the RBP vendor everybody knows pays brokers. And then this past year moved 2 of our clients.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's like, so we sat here and said, you guys are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't pay a 20% rev share.
Yep.
Yeah, the patent lying is really frustrating, and it happens all too often in our industry. It's become a cultural norm.
It is. It's the norm.
Lying.
It's
just a cultural thing.
It's a great move for sales.
Oh, it's
tough to beat.
It's a great marketing strategy. And I, as an advisor, I get RFPs from clients that belong to people in the industry that are out there banging the drum louder than me. And I told Danielle last night we were having dinner about a couple of people where I've had to rifle through those contracts to win the business myself. And I've found all kinds of ugly, ugly things. And then you go to a conference and you see this person like on stage evangelizing. And I'm just like,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens all the time.
Like
all the time.
People wonder why there's animosity and things come out over LinkedIn. It's because you see the fakeness.
Trevor Dare would say that transparency in pharmacy contracts just means they tell you how they're going to screw you.
Yeah.
You just have to figure it out. You have to read the
But you know what? I respect that.
Yeah.
And I'm not anti-commission, right? I completely understand that, like, we grew up in this business. There are some things you can't avoid. Like, taking commission does not, I probably feel like I need to say that. Taking commission does not make you a bad person.
No. Not at,
but don't say that you do the opposite, right? Just
that's it. Just be real.
And just show your value. Like, what is the value you provide in exchange for your commission? I don't care if you make commission. Just don't say that you don't and then do. It really bugs me.
I think it was Mike Krupa was on the PBM with Trevor, and that's what Mike said. Mike said nobody should be afraid to talk about how they make money.
Right.
Like, we all are doing this to make money or have to do it to make money. So there's no thing that's just right or wrong. It's just that's the way you do it. And if you can explain it, then that's fine. If you take commission off stop loss or you take commission from ELAP or whatever you do, that's fine. Just, be transparent about it.
Be real about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, last thing, and then I want us to go ahead and wrap this up because we've had a long and fruitful conversation. But Emma, I wanted to ask you, if you were sitting across the table from a brand new advisor, they just graduated from
Broker
obviously
101.
Broker 101. Yeah, you don't have to go to college to be a broker. We all know this. But they graduated from their licensing class. They now have their license. Shiny. Yay. I'm going to go be a broker now. What's a piece of advice you would give a brand new broker around discernment concerning vendors?
Gosh, the first thing I would tell them that's unrelated is forget everything you learned to get your insurance license.
Amen. Say that louder. Yeah.
None of it matters.
Experience matters. Yeah.
I think I would, there's not a good piece of advice here other than get a mentor in the business. Do your best right off the bat, because so many of us who've been doing this for a long time, we're happy to help. We want to help because we recognize that the people coming behind us are the ones that are more likely to solve the problem than us.
Amen.
And so I would say get a mentor who's been doing it right, who has good partnerships, and follow them and let them teach you, because they're going to have already vetted out most of the solutions. They're going to know what's more important, the values, the process, the procedures, the systems. And honestly, a lot of it, you got to figure it out and got to be wrong a time or two and have egg on your face and pick up the phone and go, I messed this up. I'm really sorry. Yeah.
Mentorship is one of my favorite parts of this business. Is I'm just now getting to the point where I'm starting to mentor some of the younger brokers in the community. And
Do you have the lingo yet?
Do I have
that's
lingo?
CAP or something?
Oh, yeah. Oh, like
She does.
I do.
She does.
Yeah,
and
I
she
do.
throws it at us.
Every once in a while.
That's from your band. That's from being
band. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I judge marching band I judge for Bands of America, and so I also coach marching band students, and so that's how I stay hip with the lingo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got to make sure that I keep my language tight. Steph, do you mind sharing with us a piece of advice, because you were with ClaimTalk in the early days of integrating with vendors, good, bad, or ugly, otherwise? Any advice around vendor selection?
On vendor selection, yes, I would say, again, have a great, fruitful first meeting face-to-face if possible, so that you can get to know them on a little bit of a personal level, because again, if you're just meeting via webcam and a quick call, it could just be that sales pitch that we're talking about, right? So if you can get to know them a little bit more personally, that'd be great. And then how do they talk about their work? How do they talk about how they approach the integration if we're talking about a TPA, right? Or how they approach their member experience processes when you get down into that type of nitty-gritty detail. Just the language that they use, and again, how they step up to the challenge, I think is probably the most important.
That's good advice. So Bruce, you've gone to ePowered, and you've run into this 25-year-old kid who's just built a new RBP solution using AI. He's a genius. He's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
What's your advice for him in choosing vendor partners?
I've got a lot of advice.
Okay.
No. I have two pieces, I think, to me that are the biggest. If we're talking TPA, if anybody says the words system change.
Oh, no.
So
Run away.
That's
Run.
on our checklist.
Yeah.
So, like, as we were talking, and I don't know how it lasted this long without the three of us, like, just pounding the table. If you have a TPA that says the word system change, just run. You do not want to
Out of there.
get out as fast as you can. And it's become like this new hot thing to do. And there's no realization of the pain that it creates for the clients and members. And I get it. Everybody wants to upgrade technology and move forward. And there's a vendor that sells it to everyone. And they must be terrific salespeople. They have to be so good, because we just constantly have TPAs saying, oh, we're switching over. And it's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
And it just consistently fails. And so we have one TPA that is unable to reconcile claims from 2024, whether they've been paid or not. True story.
Yes.
It's just a complete train wreck. And so I would say upgrading technology, system change, good, go for it. But you better be willing to invest and run your current system alongside that.
In tandem, right.
And you better tell people you can be on our new system and do whatever incentive you will give them to go there, but run simultaneous systems and make that investment, pay for that, staff for that, do whatever you have to do, because if you don't, it consistently fails. We've never seen it work.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen?
No.
Not one. So I could count the 5 worst TPA experiences, and they have one single thing in common.
System change.
System change. Train wreck.
Yep.
Okay. So avoid system changes.
My other piece of advice would be get to know what's behind the figurehead of the company. Yeah. So the figureheads are also dynamic, and there's a reason they're starting a business and they're getting people excited. But understand and get to know the expertise behind that sales pitch, whether it's like Omar is awesome. Like Omar could probably sell me because he'd take me golfing and tell me I'm awesome. Really, he just makes fun of me, but
you like that because you're a masochist.
I do.
Yeah.
But I would get to know what's behind Omar. I'd get to know what's behind Ben. I don't care what organization it is. I would want to know the Cynthias, the Amy Pellegrins, the Pat Horans, the Carrie Kennedys, the Brad Hansons, the Stephs, the Michelles, the Amys, the Teresa. I would want to get to know who are the people that are going to like really significantly impact the results of this relationship. So system change, run and hide. Number 2, get to know the depth and the experts, the people behind the solution that are really going to be moving the dial for the relationship.
Yeah. I do want to say that when you and Ben came to Indiana, did like a little road show with Chris Summers.
Yeah.
You two were had breakfast with me.
In a weird little office building, like
It was
a cafe
next to the USI office,
Yeah.
in Carmel, and it was the first time I'd ever truly met the human beings behind an RVP solution. And here we are today. It worked out really well. That was an important part. So I completely agree.
How did you feel about meeting us?
I thought you guys were weird and and quirky and funny, and I was so honored that you decided to have breakfast with me. I was just one broker. I only had maybe one case, maybe two. It was like less than 500 lives.
Yeah, I don't think you had any cases with us at that time. Maybe, or did you? No, you did. You did.
Yeah, it was like little though. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a big giant block of business or anything like that. But I did appreciate that. So I echo your sentiment about wanting to meet the human beings behind the solution. Emma, thank you so much for traveling here to lovely Des Moines to be with us, and we're really grateful for your expertise. And thank you, Bruce and Steph, for taking time out of your very busy days to entertain this topic of what happens with vendorships that go wrong, and how those relationships can be really pivotal to the business that we're doing every day. So I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you made it to the end of this episode, you're one of my favorite listeners. Thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe to ClaimTalk wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you next time.